my favorite things in life, I think, has always been spending time with my family and extended families. And at the same time, we learned to play games and enjoyed games together. And I guess dominoes probably was my favorite of the entire amount. And I've taught so many children, grandchildren, and friends to play. And I still play quite a lot. However, I think the most fun times were teaching them to play. And of course, we chose 42 for our main game. Always doing, sometimes so many games that they lasted until after midnight. And that was an entertainment for not only us, but for our children and our families as well. They just don't set up well. I like footprints. And so...
I'm gonna be 31.
Land. See, that's what Jackie always does. It doesn't matter what we're doing or what you have. She's gonna be it so she gets it. And I can't raise 31.
Blanks.
Hey, I got one.
I could, but I'd be taking a chance. Oh, you had a blank?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, Fern didn't have a
I
blank?
didn't get a blank.
Oh, okay. I thought she said I had one.
And blanks again?
Jackie.
Fern put some money on there.
Well, we know who's got all the blanks now.
Money? Money, what's that?
And fours.
Well, aren't you nice? Get my
Thank
6
you.
forward right
I
there.
appreciate that.
And she got that.
And I got that. All right.
She made it.
That. You made it.
Well, I've been playing.
Well, thank you, baby.
Thank you, ladies, for now. You would think when I got to be in my 90s that I might be almost through. Of course, I still continued to teach Sunday school and do other church work. But after I moved back to Henderson County, I moved into a little retired community where I met a few people that I'd known before, but mostly new people. And there I have shared many things with them, playing games almost any day in the week. And of course, again, 42 being so important. But then we had a new game introduced, and one was given to me by a friend, and we call it Marbles and Jokers. And that is a good game for any group of people to play.
Okay.
Oh, you discarded.
I discarded.
Oh my goodness, I draw the same card I discarded earlier.
Okay, and I think I can do that tricky thing with an 8.
You can.
All right, so I come
All the way to the back.
all the way to the back. All right, cool.
It's only scary if he's got one right here, because then if he had a 10, he'd get you.
He bumped me.
Yeah.
But no one has a 10.
I'm going back up here with that.
And what's this game called, Aunt Floy?
Huh?
What's the game called?
Well, Marbles and Jokers, some call it, and when it was first brought to South Texas by the Snowbirds, they called it Social Security, which I think was neat. If I had a real good hand, I'd turn it around and let you take a picture, but I don't have.
I think I'd better go in, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, It's hard to videotape and play a game at the same time. There's a 7.
I know how you are.
Okay.
We put one movie on for you and me.
I'm gonna get him close anyway.
Who's that guy you and me and who is that guy we're playing with, Nanny?
Reese.
Yeah.
Reed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that game I kept having 8s, remember? That's how I got all my home.
Uh-huh.
I wish I had that right now.
Hey, Floy.
Hi. I'm so glad you came along.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what's going on out here.
Yeah.
Isn't it pretty? Beautiful day as well. And that's my favorite spot to sit, so let's go there. Well, for a long time, I went when I had an opportunity to the Dallas Arboretum, which is on the banks of the White Rock Lake. And I really enjoyed every trip we made. But for a long time, I kind of worried that we didn't have anything like that closer home. And when we had the opportunity to do something and this land was chosen, it was special to me because while I was in high school, I'd had lunch out here one day on the creek with my sister Irene and my friends from school. Then I thought about the years that I had grown flowers and that my husband Reba had. He just did a lot of flower growing before we moved to A&M and spent 3.5 years there. And from that day forward, I always had flowers. After his death and I married Jack Little, the same thing was repeated. He loved to grow flowers and he always had flowers for me. And I just thought this was the nicest place to bring people, and especially children, to play and see nature in action. I'm standing here this windy afternoon in the middle of the Arboretum, and it is a place that I love to come to, and it means a great deal to me And I think one of our best contributions to the future people of this area as the children grow up and see nature in action. Instead of sending flowers or doing any other gifts, I decided to put a brick in the walk here in the Arboretum for when Reba, my children's father, passed away. And then I was married later to his friend, Jack Little, and I did the same for him. Both of them loved growing flowers, and they did a lot for me. And I wish they could have seen this place, and that's why I put the brick here. That brick is from my brother George.
Oh, your brother George.
He was the first of my siblings to die, and I put a brick here for him, and then I've added others along the way. In the 1850s, the Wofford family that has donated this beautiful house to us came to this area and grew and lived here for many years. And we're so glad to have it in the Arboretum and have it restored to its original form, and even its contents are similar, if not theirs, others similar to it. And it's a place that we can come to enjoy and have entertainments, weddings, and family get-togethers. Hi, Ronnie.
How you doing? Well,
I just wanted to tell you a little bit about, not altogether about this house, but what I think about the arrangement of it. You see, it's so much like the plan for the house that I grew up in. And even though it has a stair, which we didn't have, and the rooms aren't exactly like, because our kitchen was back that way, but it reminds me of it. And then I remember those hot summer days and nights when we just couldn't stay in the house because we didn't have any electricity. We didn't have any fans. So we brought our beds out and put them down in the dog trot, and there would be a breeze through there, and we could sleep quite well all through the night. And I still enjoy houses like this because it reminds me of the past so much. In our house, this was the girls' room, and it was papered inside. But this was the big fireplace room, and there was a door to enter there, and then into the kitchen from that. And I played here in the dog trot, and then there was this little back porch that we had where we kept on the shelf, we kept the water bucket and with the dipper, and the wash basin where we washed our hands. Now, in this house, the kitchen is back here, and you may want to see what kinds of things we had in our kitchen also. And of course, I had iron pots like that and gave them away because they were too heavy. I couldn't carry them when I had them full of food. And I see a number of baskets and tin pans, churn and broom, all those things were familiar because I grew up with them.
fan the mosquitoes away.
That's all you could do because there was. Now, the one thing they did do was early in the afternoon, before it got dark, they would put piles of trash, sometimes even manure from the cowshed, and build a little fire on either side of the porch, and the smoke would drift all around, and that would help for a while. As we thought about doing other things, and the opportunity came that I've already told you about, the Arboretum, I've enjoyed that tremendously, and it's meant a great deal to me to have been one of the charter members and enjoy the beginning of the work. Later on, I had an opportunity to work on the Historical Commission of Henderson County. And in the process of those years, we did the Henderson County History Book, restored one of the buildings in Athens, and it was the Falk Gant building. And we also did the history book to sell, to pay for the work we did on that building. Then along the way, my cousin's son, Ronnie, had been doing various kinds of books. And as he came up on his, I guess, probably the hardest one that he did, because it took a long time, and he walked every street in Athens before he started the book. And I've had the privilege of reading and rereading and enjoying, discussing, and maybe even helping a little. He says I did anyway. But it has been a real treasure to be able to be part of books that are being published. And I guess we'll continue as long as life continues. But after they grew up, we enjoyed traveling together and learning new things. And our first travels, I just wanted them so badly to see the mountains and the seashore. So that's where we went first, to take them to see those things. And then later, they took us to see things through the years. And in the process, I remember some special times in the mountains and the seashore. And of course, later even than that, when Merrill Nolan were missionaries to Brazil, we traveled there and spent about 3 weeks the first time. Later, I was privileged to stay 4 months and see most of Brazil and a lot of other places as well. Then later, even than that, I traveled a great deal with Jack Ernest after we were married, and we went to Oklahoma and up through Kansas, and a lot of time in Colorado, and some of it with our family, which we enjoyed. Then I guess the next things were the trips northeast, some over into Virginia and North Carolina, where our families originated from, and I did a lot of family history research there. We had a wonderful time doing that, and I'm still working on it with all of my family. He said, could you come to work Monday? Because the lady who had been doing that had retired. And I said, yes. And so we planned to go back to LaRue and move the things we need. We found an apartment that was furnished, so we didn't need to move very much. We went back and was on the way back. Well, before we left, he called and wondered if we couldn't just get there tomorrow at noon. And we were on the way back, and it was almost noon, and we had a flat. Yeah. So we got that fixed real quick. I barely had time to get home and find my hose and shoes and brush my hair, and I went to work for J.C. Penney's, working 20 years in all. And I guess I enjoyed the work there as much as any store I worked in. But from there, we went to Marshall, and I transferred there. Again, when I got there, the lady had retired from the department that took care of linens and curtains. Of course, that was my favorite, and I immediately had that job. And two, I was planning to take some vacation and get settled. But he said, I need you now. So I started to work next day again. And later on, after a freeze that took all the plants away that my husband worked with, we had to move again. So we went to Houston. And sure enough, we went to Maryland's store, and they too were looking for somebody for that department. And I said I could start on Monday. And they decided, could I come Thursday night? Because they had a store meeting and a little dinner, and that would give me a chance to meet everybody. I really didn't know where my clothes were that I would wear to work, but I managed. And we got there just about 30 minutes before time. And fortunately, I sat between the personnel manager and one of the employees that lived in the next apartment from the one we had just moved into. So we became fast friends and rode to work together. Oh, we were there 7.5 years. I guess I enjoyed that maybe more than the others. But every time Mr. Wilbur Lee, who was my first manager, came to store meetings in Houston, he always came to my department and talked to me, and he'd say, "You still look like a sales lady." So the next thing that happened that was so wonderful, all the meetings for that district were held there. And when Mr. Penny came to town to come to the meeting, my department manager said, "I'd like you to meet Mr. Penny and I'll arrange it." So he did. And as I came out of the upstairs supply room, Mr. Penny was getting off the elevator, and he introduced us and left us alone. So I talked with him for at least 20 minutes, all by myself. Mr. Penny was 95 at the time, and I think he was the most active 95-year-old I'd ever seen. And his eyes just snapped when he saw something that pleased him. And he asked me numerous questions about what products sold the best in our department, and approximately how many we sold each 6 weeks, and all those things that I would not have known if I had not had a wonderful department manager who knew nothing about selling curtains in Houston because he came from New York. And he just let me do the work that he normally would have done. And he paid me the compliment of saying that he got the title and the pay, and I did the work. But he paid me back by arranging for Mr. Penny to talk to me. Mr. Penny asked all these questions, and somehow I knew most of the answers real well, which made him extremely happy to know that I knew what I was doing. And after a bit, I looked at my watch, and it was almost time for the door to open. And I said, "Mr. Penny, I want to thank you for the privilege of working for the company. But we have an ad, and this bedspread that I have on the buggy needs to be on the floor when the door opens." And then I thought, I have just dismissed the president of the Penny Company. But he just reached out and took my hand. And he said, "Oh no, it is I who should thank you." He said, "Without associates like you, there would be no J.C. Penney Company." And I have been able to tell that story to employees, not only in Texas, but other states I've visited in, because I always like to go to the penny stores and meet the people. You see, a long time ago, it was like a family, and you were always welcome and treated like company when you came to a store that wasn't yours. A great deal has changed in the company now, but I just meet the people and talk to them whether they know anything about what happened in the past or not.